Hi, so at the minute I'm in Photoshop CS6 CC and I'm just going to go to File and Open and grab the two images that I want to use. In order to bring them in together, if you click on the first one and then Control click on the second one, you'll be able to open two or more items together. So in CS6, if you're in CS5 and earlier, you would press the F on your keyboard and that will take you through your screen modes. In CS6, there's tabs along the top and you need to be able to click on each of those tabs and drag downwards to separate out your images. In order to move your image across, you need to go to your Move tool. In CS6 it's left 1, so it's left column first item down. In CS5 and before it's right 1. And whenever you click on the image to make it active, you can then click and drag it into the other image. If you hold down your Shift key while you do it, it'll snap to the edges of the image that you're bringing it into. Okay, so the first method here that I'm going to show you is the eraser method. With the eraser method, you can see that you've got two layers. We're switching off the background layer and the eraser is left 6 on the toolbar. I'm going to just show you the options bar here, how to change the sizes of your brushes through the master diameter and also the softness of your brushes. So you can see a hard edge and a soft edge example on screen. So I'm going to bring the brush size down a tad and I'm going to make it quite hard because what I want to do, and I'm going to go here to the navigator and zoom in and then grab the little red box in the navigator and navigate to where I want to go to. So with the brushes, I'm just sizing this down again. And on this here, I'm going to just click the first item and you can see there you've got quite a hard edge. And if we shift click every click after that, you get straight lines between your clicks. So this is quite good for outlining purposes. You can do this with any of the brushes. And what I've just done there, where you've seen the little hand come up, I've held down the space bar on the keyboard. That interrupts whatever tool you happen to be on and it allows you to move your way around the screen. So whilst you have the space bar held down, it interrupts the current tool, no matter what that tool is. And you can see here I'm just outlining all the way down. For the purpose of outlining, I find that it allows you to sort of outline the subject and then you can make your brush or your eraser slightly bigger and then you can start to take things away a bit more confidently and not worry about taking away too much. Now the eraser method is good because most people understand that an eraser erases, it takes away. The problem with the eraser tool is that if you take away too much, unless you catch it on immediately and step backward, then it's actually gone. So you may have to actually bring the image in and start over again. So at the minute we're deleting to what looks like a checkered background. That's actually transparency. And you can see there that the background layer is actually switched off at the moment, so we can't see the content of that bottom layer. And you'll see there I'm up and down on the sizes of my brushes as well. I'm using keyboard shortcuts there. It's left square bracket to make the brush smaller, right square bracket to make the brush bigger. There I made a mistake, so I've done Ctrl Z. Bigger brushes do make for less work, small brushes for fine, intricate detail. And I've just done Ctrl 0 there to make it fit screen. So I'm switching on the background and switching off the foreground. So there's a shadow on the right hand side. I also need to take out detail on the right, so I'm just going to take out all of the grass and just leave the sheet. Just doing this quickly. And again, once you've got the outline done, you can up the size of your brush and then start taking out big chunks. Remember, if you use soft edge brushes, that it will blend in way better. Okay, so left square bracket there for smaller brushes. Make sure that's all nice and clean, and right square bracket to increase the size of your brush. So if I switch on the background again and then switch off the top, and you can see there that that fits pretty well. So for the second method, I'm just bringing the image in again directly on top and I'm just going to minimize the target image. I'm going to just switch off the top to make sure it's aligned perfectly, and then I'm going to put a mask on. So a mask applies to the right hand side of the thumbnail on that layer, and you can see here I'm clicking between the mask thumbnail and the image thumbnail. Make sure that you're on the mask for this. When we're on the mask, we use the brush tool, which is right 4 in your toolbar, and we need to use black and white. So think of black as negative and white as positive. If you have any other colors in there, you can hit the little mini black and white and that will default your colors, and you can flip your colors over. Do make sure that your opacity is 100%, and you'll see that deletes to checkerboard because the background is switched off, and I'm doing this quite quickly. With masks, if you take a bit out and you didn't mean to, you just flip your colors over and you paint white on. And if you look at the mask thumbnail, you'll see an amount of black on there. So the black is actually just hiding the content, it's not actually deleting. So your content is physically there. This is non-destructive in nature because you're not actually deleting anything. So I'm just zooming in, I'm going to change the size of my brush and the softness of my brush to hardish, and that's way too big, so I'm just going to go with left square bracket, but there's this kind of hardish edge. And again, I'm doing the same thing, so I'm clicking on the first one and I'm shift clicking the rest. So whenever you resize your brushes, you have to click and then start with the shift click from the second point forward. So I'm just outlining, and I'm just going to speed through this. So it's all the same stuff, small outline, then go on to bigger brushes. Bigger brushes make less work. Okay, so I've done very quickly on the left hand side. I still have the shadow on the right hand side. You can see there in the mask thumbnail that there is an amount of black, and that's actually hiding the content on the left. Okay, I'm going to switch off the background again. We'll take care of the right hand side here, and I will zoom in, switch that on and off so that you can see the difference, and we'll zoom in and we'll navigate to where we need to go, pressing down the space bar. Switch off the background again, and we'll outline that right hand side of the shoot with a slightly hard edge using the click, shift, click outline method. And I haven't been very accurate there, so I'm just going to go back, and then I am going to just increase the size of the brush slightly and take out the bit that I don't need, put on the background, and switch on the top layer on and off a couple of times. So the next bit that we're interested in is that shadow on the right hand side. This is what I didn't do in the eraser method. And for this, you need to make sure that you're on the image thumbnail and not the mask thumbnail. So whenever you're on the image thumbnail, you have color. Whenever you're on the mask thumbnail, you have black and white typically. That's assuming, of course, that you've actually got colors in the toolbar. So we're going to go here for the clone stamp, which is left 5. This is still a brush, and we're going to zoom into the area that we need. Now we just want to remove the shadow. We do not want to replicate any of the pattern. So in the options bar, I'm going to change normal to lighten and take a sample. So what this does is I have taken a light sample and I'm putting it on a darker area. So Photoshop makes a compromise, or it looks at the values where I'm picking up and where I want to drop them. And if the area that I want to put them on is darker, it lightens that area up. I will take samples little and often. So now we're going to go here for the burn tool. Think of this as burning toast. Again, make sure that you're on your image thumbnail and not the mask. And I'm just increasing the size here, and I'm just going to darken that area in. So you're just going to go over it a couple of more times and it darkens that area down. Then I'm going to go to the dodge tool. And in the dodge tool, if we look at the options bar, I have an exposure of 20, and in the range I have shadows, midtones and highlights, and I like to use midtones. 20 allows us to go over it a couple of times, and if I go over the dark areas, so I think of this about dodging my darks and keeping the D's together, and burning my brights, keeping the B's together. Now, it doesn't affect the background here, because part of the background there that I would be going over would be hidden by a mask. That's the grass area. So it will affect the top of the image, but not the bottom. In terms of exposure, I'm going to go into levels, and I'm going to do this in the background first. This brings up my levels dialog box, and I'm just going to increase the saturation of everything. So I'm playing about there with the highlights slider and the midtone slider, and I have a preview where I can check it off and on, and it may look very subtle. For me to replicate that on the top layer and use exactly the same settings, you need to look at your keyboard, and just to the right hand side of your spacebar you have an Alt-GR button. If you press down the Alt-GR and L at the same time, you'll get the levels dialog box up again with exactly the same settings as previous. So I'm just changing this slightly because I thought it was a wee bit too dark, and I'm going to just OK that. Now to continue with the rest of the tutorial, we're going to look at adjustment layers, which is the little black and white icon. You can see here that there's loads of different adjustments that you can do. I'm going to go for gradient map, which is towards the bottom. Initially it's picked up the colours that I've had in my toolbar, but I want black and white. So if you click the down arrow, you can click the black and white, which is the third item. And I don't want this to be 100% black and white. I want to see a little bit of colour coming through. So I'm going to reduce the opacity to 80%, and you can see a slight tint come in there. Now, it's not looking bad, and I'm just going to have a quick look through the rest of these adjustment layers that you have available, and I'm going to go for photo filter. With photo filter, you can have warming filters and cooling filters. You can change the density, which is basically the intensity of the filter. You can change the tint. You can have cooling. You can have orange, you can have cyan, you can have violet, you can have deep blue. It just depends on the mood that you're trying to go for. So I'm just going to go back to the first one, which is warming filter. And if I've closed that down and I decide then that I want to change the filter again, just double click the icon on that adjustment layer, and then you can play about with the slider and change the tints again. I'm going to leave that there. Okay, so I've decided that this is my item finished, so I'm going to go to Save As. Initially I will save it as a PSD and keep the layers separate. That has all sorts of advantages, like being able to copy over the adjustment layers, etc. So I'm just going to call this Layers Masks PSD, and whenever I click Save there is a compatibility notice, so we just say OK to that. I'm then going to save out a second copy as a JPEG. So I'm going to go to File and Save As, and this time I'm changing Photoshop document to the JPEG option. So whenever I click Save there, I just want to show you a wee bit about quality options. So I'm going to really zoom into the image and move it across to a detailed area. If I take the quality options down to 1, you can see that there's so much compression there and a drop in quality that it's just awful looking. So always leave it at 12 and that smooths everything out. That's the best possible quality, and then click OK. Okay, so guys, that's the tutorial over. Thanks for listening.